Okay guys, today is my second day in Germany. I want to do my outfit check. Cute kan? Okay, now I want to find volunteers for my research. Oh, I found a group of friends. Let's ask them. Hi guys.
Hi.
What are you guys doing here?
We study here.
Oh, what's major?
Bachelor in Economics.
Oh, bachelor in economy. Can you guys help me to do my research?
Sure.
Hi everyone. Assalamualaikum. I'm Nurin Badrusha, a student from Malaysia. Today, I want to discuss about a very interesting topic, which is the unemployment rate in Germany. Before I continue about this topic, I want to introduce my guests. My first guest is Nur Salihah Sejuta, and the second one is Nur Airin Nabila, and the last one is Nurul Hanis Zulaika. The topic is the unemployment rate in Germany. Okay, before we go further, let's first understand what unemployment really means. In simple terms, unemployment is when someone is able to work, want to work, but just cannot find a job. That is simple, right? Right? Okay. And this includes when people are working but maybe they don't have the right job. We call that the underemployment. If unemployment rate is high, it shows that the country isn't really using the biggest asset, which is people. All their talent, skill, energy just going to waste. Now, let's move to the country I focusing in my research, which is Germany, or its full name is Federal Republic of Germany. Germany is located in Central Europe and its capital is Berlin, a big lively city full of history. From 10 years ago, population in Germany is increasing until now 2025. As of January 2025, Germany has a population of 84.7 million people, the largest in the Europe Union. It's a diverse country with many cultures, but the official language is, of course, German, right? Okay. Here's a fun fact about Germany. Did you know that Germany has over 20,000 castles? Imagine that in Malaysia, even finding a one castle is rare. But in Germany, there are many castles everywhere. And the second fun fact is Berlin is actually 9 times bigger than Paris, but it still has plenty of green space and spa. And it's really great for relaxing. Okay, now let's dive into the main part, the trend of unemployment in Germany from 2050 to 2025. Overall, Germany unemployment rate is relatively low compared to many other countries. The country is known for its strong vocational training system and high skill level. That's why job opportunities are fairly stable. So, despite being the Europe's largest economy, the Germany still struggles with a persistent issue like unemployment. Now, when you think of Germany, you probably picture economic strength, solid infrastructure, and a power of industry. And that's all true. But here's another side of the story, especially when you look at what happened during and after the COVID-19 pandemic. Salihah, can you explain more detail about this issue?
Yes, sure. So let's rewind a bit. Back in 2020, the world was hit by COVID-19, and Germany, like most countries, had to go into lockdown. People could not go to work, business could not operate normally, and many companies just could not afford to keep paying their employees the salaries. The result, a significant rise in unemployment. But here's where it gets more specific. Long-term unemployment become one of the key challenges. And just to clarify, long-term unemployment means someone who tried to looking for a job but could not find it in more than 1 year. According to the data, we saw an increase in long-term unemployment between late 2019 and 2022. Makes sense, right? Because there's lockdown, uncertainty, industry shutting down. But from 2022 onwards, as restriction is, the rate started to decline. People could return to work or find new jobs. Now, fast forward to 2023 and 2025, Germany actually maintained a long-term unemployment rate of 0.9%, which is one of the lowest in Europe. Sounds like a good news, right? Well, not entirely, because see, the rate is staying the same over multiple years, show us that there's little progress for certain groups. We are talking about older workers, people with lower skill, and those dealing with health issues. These individuals still face big challenges when it comes to finding and holding onto employment, even in a recovering economy. And in fact, the average number of long-term unemployed people actually increased by 48.7 in thousand from 2024 to 2025. That's not a small jump. This is because possible cause is a weakness in manufacturing, which is a backbone of Germany.
One of the biggest impacts came during the 2020 lockdowns. Because of COVID-19, people had to stay home to stop the virus from spreading. That meant many businesses couldn't operate normally or at all, and when business can run, they lose money. Some went bankrupt and had to shut down completely.
So, a lot of people lost their job.
Yes, either business closed or they had to let go of many workers just to survive. Some companies even cut their staff in half. And the unemployment rate in Germany rose to 3.8% in 2020, the highest between 2018 and 2021. In contrast, it was only 3.1% in 2019.
Wow, that's a big jump. Did people just stay unemployed?
Not really. Many started working from home, and after 2021, restrictions began to ease, especially for people who were no longer at risk from the virus. So, more job opportunities slowly came back. By 2021, the unemployment rate started to improve. People found part-time jobs or switched careers to stay afloat.
So, even though it got bad, Germany found a way to bounce back.
Exactly. Economic problems caused a spike in unemployment, but the country adapted. The situation got better once people could work again, whether from home or get a new job.
This is a great example of how global events can deeply affect local economies.
Alright, let's talk about something that hits harder than we think, the impact of unemployment. Now, when we hear the word unemployment, we usually think, oh, someone doesn't have a job. But honestly, it's way bigger than that, especially in a country like Germany. Let's start with the economic side. When lots of people are out of work, guess what? They don't have money to spend. And when people stop spending, businesses, especially small ones like cafes, shops, and entertainment places, start losing money too. That can lead to more layoff. And yeah, it becomes a whole chain reaction. On top of that, the government collects less income tax, but at the same time has to pay out more in unemployment benefits, so their budget gets in from both sides. Now, let's get real about the social impact. Losing a job isn't just about losing money. It hits your self-esteem. People can feel stressed, concerned, or even depressed. It affects mental health, family relationship, and sadly, in some cases, can lead to divorce or even domestic violence because of the pressure at home. And it doesn't stop there. When people feel desperate, some may turn to crime just to survive, like theft or small-time fraud. In worst cases, some can't pay rent anymore and end up homeless. That puts even more pressure on shelters, hospitals, and social workers. So yeah, unemployment isn't just an economic problem. It affects mental health, family safety, and social overall.
I see. So, any other ways to reduce the unemployment in Germany? Okay, can Erin explain how Germany handled unemployment during the pandemic? I just heard something about fiscal policy. I know it's about government spending and taxes, right?
Exactly. Fiscal policy is one of the main tools government use to control unemployment. They can use expansionary or contractionary policies depending on the situation.
And what did Germany choose?
The Germany chose expansionary fiscal. Well, first, they increased government spending. They invested 113 billion in 2020 and 2021. This went into areas like education, infrastructure, and support for families and local governments. All of that created jobs and stimulated the economy. That investment was not just random spending. It targeted economic stability and job creation.
Did they do anything else besides spending money?
Yes, Germany also had a short-time work scheme. Instead of firing workers, companies reduced their hours. That way, employees stay on the payroll and receive part of their salary. Supported by the government, that policy called Kurzarbeit has been used before, like during the 28 financial crisis, and it worked well again in 2020.
How many people use that?
Incredible numbers. It jumped from 145,000 people in 2019 to 2.94 million in 2020. That's about 2.8 million more workers protected from losing their jobs.
Wow, that must really help to reduce unemployment.
Exactly. They also reduced taxes to boost people's spending power. The main value-added tax rate went from 19% to 16%, and the reduced rate went from 7% to 5% starting July 2020 for 6 months. Lower taxes mean more money in people's hands, so they spend more, which helps businesses and keeps the economy thinking. And Germany also supported families through the income stabilizing coefficient. They raised childcare allowances and tax breaks for single parents. For example, from 1908 to 4008 per year.
So without all this, what will happen?
Well, if Germany had not acted, unemployment could have stayed high for years. That would have hurt their economy and delay development. Countries need to respond quickly or they risk long-term damage.
Okay, thanks for the explanation. I heard there is another policy. What is it exactly?
Well, monetary policy is all about how a central bank manages the money supply and interest rate in Germany's interest rate. In Germany case, this job is the European Central Bank, or we call ECB. Now, here where it gets interesting. Germany has this kind of threshold rule when it comes to unemployment and policy action. If unemployment rises above 3.5%, it's a signal that the economy is slowing down. And to fix that, Germany and the Eurozone as a whole might use an expansionary monetary policy. What does that mean? In simple terms, more money in the system and lower interest rate. This encourage banks to lend more, which help businesses invest, grow, and most importantly, hire more workers. On the flip side, if unemployment drops below 3.5%, it could mean the economy is overheating. That's when restrictive monetary policy kicks in, reducing the money supply and raising interest rate to cool things down a bit. And if unemployment sits right around that sweet spot of 3.5%, the ECB tends to go for a neutral stances, not making major changes and just keeping things steady. Now, let's look at real example of how this worked during COVID-19. In March 2020, the ECB launched something called the Pandemic Emergency Purchase Program, we call PEPP. Sounds complicated, but here's the idea. The ECB pumped 18.5 trillion euro into the financial system by buying up all kinds of assets, including bonds from bank, companies, and government. This move flooded the banking system with money, making it easier and cheaper for banks to lend money to businesses and families. The result? Lower interest rate, more loans, more business activity, and more jobs to citizens. It was a classic expansionary move, and it made sense because in 2020, Germany's unemployment rate was climbing, hitting nearly 4%. But by 2022, that rate dropped to around 3.0%. So in terms of impact, PEPP and other ECB policies seems to work pretty well.
What if this policy is not applied?
Well, the stakes are high. Prolonged periods of high unemployment don't just hurt individuals, they hurt an entire economy. When people aren't working, the country loses out on productivity, business cannot grow, consumer demands drop, and ultimately economic growth slows down. But it's not just economic. High unemployment can lead to poverty, crime, and social unrest. People feel hopeless, families struggle, and communities break down. So, while it might sound abstract, monetary policy actually plays a very real role in shaping people's everyday life. I think that's about monetary policies.
Okay, thank you Saliha.
Welcome.
Is there any recommendation for this policy?
Yes. So now let's talk about one of our recommendation to reduce unemployment in Germany, and that's boosting digital infrastructure to support remote work. Okay, here's the thing. Not everyone in Germany has equal access to job opportunities. People in big cities, sure, they have got fast internet and more choices. But for folks living in rural or small town areas, it's a different story. Slow or poor makes it hard to apply for a job online, attend virtual interview, or even take part in online training. So, what can be done? Well, first, the government needs to upgrade the internet networks across the country. Every area, even the smallest village, deserve access to high-speed internet because the strong digital access, people can work remotely, freelance, or even start small online businesses all from their own homes. But that's not all. We also need to think about digital skills. Some people, especially older workers, aren't very confident with technology. So free digital training program should be offered to teach them how to use tools like email, video calls, and job search platforms. This kind of supports open up new opportunities and help bridge the gap between urban and rural areas. It's a simple step, but it can make a huge difference in creating a more inclusive and modern job market in Germany. That's all.
Alright, thank you so much for that insightful explanation. To wrap things up, even though Germany known for having one of the strongest economies in the world, unemployment is still a challenge, especially for groups like older workers and those with lower skill levels. The government has taken several steps through fiscal and monetary policy to manage this issue, and those efforts have helped. But looking ahead, there's still room for improvement. Germany should continue focusing on upgrading job training program and supporting the growth of digital and green job sector. These areas offer new opportunities for the future workforce. By making the job market more inclusive and future ready, Germany can ensure that more people have access to stable, meaningful work, which no matter their age, background, or where they live. And with that, we conclude today's session. Thank you for tuning in. Okay, that's all. Thank you Saliha, Erin, and Hanis for coming to my podcast. This information very helpful for my research. Thank you so much. Bye.
Glad to be able to help you.
Bye.